Hello and welcome to the show. Today I am on Forza 6 with another autocross car build. My vehicle of choice is the R32 Nissan Skyline, a car that I suspect could be pretty good. It's been a while though since we've had a four-wheel drive car tackle the autocross course. I think the Subaru SVX was the last one. Not too many four-wheel drive cars have gone around here, so yeah, could potentially be quite good. Now we do have less room for upgrades than we have seen from the previous vehicles, certainly with this starting off as a B-class car. And we're most definitely going to be wanting to get some race tyres and get as large a tyres as we can. 285s are not too bad, certainly, for a four-wheel drive car. 285s on the front and on the rear, which is, I reckon, pretty good going for this. Certainly for A-class, for what we're doing, that should give us plenty of grip. Combine that with a four-wheel drive system, we should have plenty of grip, plenty of traction. We're going to be wanting the Forza aero parts as well. Again, anything that can help with the handling is going to very much be needed. I'll come back to other parts because I suspect once we put the weight reduction on this car, we're not going to have a massive amount of PI to play with. Again, I think this may be going a similar way to the SVX in that we're going to be quite high PI for relatively little sort of power to weight ratio. While the tyres are good, they're not certainly nowhere near the largest that we have seen. So I think we may have another underpowered car on our hands, possibly. Yeah, that's jumped the PI up a lot. It's still 2,864 pounds, which is quite a lot of weight in this vehicle. Now, admittedly, we are going to be taking some of that weight out with the exhaust. This is my favourite of the engine upgrades. Takes out, in this case, almost 100 pounds of weight, which is always nice to have removed from the vehicle. Now, the next question, do I go for these parts? Do I go for gearbox and so on? It does add a fair amount of PI. I don't really think... I think I want to go for power with what's left of the PI. It's not very much really to try and get. I mean, if I can shave off any weight as well, that will be nice. But yeah, how much power can we get in? So 315 with pistons. We can get... okay, I can't quite get up to 320 with that. Can we get... ooh, 318. I like that. Admittedly, with the pistons, I could perhaps shave a little bit more weight off. Okay, 318 horsepower, I think, is good. I doubt we're going to get that in. Nope, but didn't think we would. Or we can get 319 is 1 PI over, or we can get 316 with a couple of PI to play with. I think we'll go with 318 horsepower, 300 foot-pounds of torque, but it is heavy. And when we consider cars such as the Dodge Daytona that went out last time, yeah, that was, what was that, 400-500 pounds heavier than this, but it had twice the torque and almost twice the power as the Skyline, and that had fantastic traction because of the huge tyres. We may be a little bit underpowered. However, I have thought that about Skylines before when it came to the Horizon 2 rally car builds, and the R34 Skyline absolutely monstered the times, so I could be wrong. I could be wrong with this car, and it could go very, very quick. Of course, to test out the Skyline, we have brought it to the Hockenheim circuit, where it'll get 3 runs through the autocross course. Our current leader is the Renault 5 Turbo with a time of 205.2. Now, that is a mighty, mighty fast time. And while I think the Skyline will be good, it could well challenge the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. That's the fastest four-wheel drive car. I know that's a strange thing to say, but the Jeep is. I'm not sure we're quite going to be up with the Renault 5, but Skylines have surprised me in the past. If we can carry enough corner speed through the slower speed gates, much in a similar way that the Renault 5 did, then possibly. I think we might struggle acceleration-wise. I don't think this is going to be the fastest car that we've had through the gates or through the down the short straights. But if we can make it quick through the tighter sections, and that's where the Renault 5 made up all of its time, if that can happen with the Skyline, then maybe. Maybe it can. How do we fare through here? It's quick. It's very quick, actually. Through that bit. Get it slowed down here. Its brakes are pretty sharp on the car as well, which is always nice. There isn't really any hints of understeer either from the Skyline, and it is lovely through there. Now, this is where we're probably going to struggle. We're going to struggle the most, certainly, with the Skyline. I mean, it's not difficult, but we have not got the power, really, to accelerate out of here in the same manner that some of the other cars have, and it's noticeable. We had the Opel Kadett up to 120 odd miles an hour down there. We've seen a few vehicles getting towards that speed. This one was 112, 113 miles an hour, so we are a little bit down on straight line speed. The change of direction is fantastic on this car. It's also a little strange, I will be honest. As much as I like having the steering wheel on the right side, it's a little strange having got used to most of the last few vehicles having had it on the left. You've got to kind of readjust your width perception of the cars. Get it stopped through here. I'm liking this Skyline. The Skyline is nice around this course. Again, here we're struggling. Here we're not as quick as some of the other cars, but if we can make up the times through this next section, this is where the Renault 5 came good. The Renault 5 was pretty average up until the end, and I'm hoping maybe we can do a similar thing with the Skyline, because, yeah, again, up until this point, the Skyline is on for an okay time, but it's nothing groundbreaking. The real question is, how does it fare through here? It's good. It's absolutely lovely through here. Use the speed from the Skyline. It's not a bad first go. 207.2 is not a bad first go at all, and it is a lovely, easy car to drive quickly. Question is, can I find some more time? So, on to the second run for the Skyline. Will I be able to find any more time with this car? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find masses of it. Hopefully, I can shave some time off, but I'm not sure I can get the 2 seconds needed to get up to that Renault 5. It's a lovely, easy car to drive very, very quickly. Fantastically easy to drive this car fast. I'm just not sure it's quite as quick as some of the other vehicles. The issues for the second time in a row have actually been fairly accurate with the vehicle. A lovely handling car, this one, but we perhaps lack that little bit of power. We've just not quite got enough power, or certainly not quite got enough power for the weight of the car. We've seen cars almost 1,000 pounds lighter than this have 100 more horsepower, and you know. Yes, we've got the four-wheel drive traction, and yes, it is nice, but it's not quite enough to overcome that size difference. 8 miles an hour down on the Opel Kadett as we come into that section, and that's quite a big difference on such a small section of the track. It is lovely through these slower gates, absolutely fantastic through here. There is absolutely no doubting that. I'm not 100% sure quite what gear I want to be in. I think first might be a little too short, second perhaps a little too long for that section, but we do get out of it, and again we're lovely and clean through this part of the lap. I'm trying to carry more speed. I've carried too much speed. I had to try something in the end there to make up a little bit of time. I tried to be braver under brakes and carry the speed through that section. Didn't quite work out as we come through the hairpin. Yeah, exquisite handling car, this one. There is really no understeer of note. The back end is perhaps a tiny bit on the lively side, but it's certainly not going to step out. It's not going to cause any issues. You just occasionally feel it wanting to go. No, I threw everything at it. I can't quite be that brave then. Well, there was a couple of gates hit in that one. Yeah, it's a good car. I'm just not sure I can find that much more time in it. On to the final run for the Skyline, and well, if this is to become the fastest all-wheel drive car, we needed to find 0.3 of a second. Not a huge amount of time, but I'm still thinking it might be difficult to find that. I do like this as an autocross car. I think it's a great vehicle. It's just a combination of lack of power and too much weight, and as good as it is through the corners, it's not enough, and there's some oversteer through there. That's not quite what I was really expecting from the Skyline. I mean, we haven't really had any cars with massive oversteer problems. We haven't really seen. When I set about doing this series, I feared as we got to the more ridiculous of vehicles, we would have cars with big oversteer problems and so on. Nothing really has. The Buzzbox was a little bit dodgy, but yeah, aside from that, we haven't had anything really have big problems. And I wouldn't have expected this. If anything, I would expect understeer, and there is, when pushed really hard around some of these corners, it does understeer a little bit, but that's not to be surprised at. You know, four-wheel drive cars often is going to happen. But there's kind of just a snappy oversteer goes on through that first fast gate. We don't get it anywhere else around the course. Every other place where we've seen cars oversteer doesn't happen to the Skyline. It's just a little snappy oversteer around that section to be aware of, and then little bits of understeer through the rest of the course. But on a whole, yeah, it's a great car. It's a very responsive car, and I do like driving it again. We got a little bit, the back end was letting go there, so it's a slightly curious way this car almost loses traction when you push it really hard. Sometimes the front end can let go, but equally you can slide the back of the car around if you get things a little bit wrong in certain ways. I was trying to get on the power sooner down here, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to make up any time. It was lovely and neat through that last section, but it's not going to be quicker. It's not going to be quicker. 2:07.7 that time out. The first run does still stand as the fastest for the Skyline. Yeah, it's a good car, great car to drive, great fun vehicle to drive, but we are down on time. We're a couple of seconds down on the top cars, and I think the combination of high weight and low power, relatively speaking, of course, among the cars that have gone around, you know, cars 800 pounds lighter have 100 more horsepower. It's going to have an effect, and as good as the traction is, it's not enough, and there's a little bit of understeer when pushed very, very hard, and the back end if the back end lets go, it kind of snaps and lets go, as opposed to some of the cars that have been a little bit more gradual. And while that doesn't affect it too much around here, main being that fast section, it's just a little irritating if that is something that happens. Still, I mean, the time is not bad at all. The 2:07.2 will put the Skyline into 12th place. It is a tenth of a second down on the Ferrari 355. It is a tenth of a second quicker than the Plymouth Prowler, a couple of tenths faster than the Buzzbox. Is a very, very good time, certainly a very respectable time. It is quicker than the BAC Mono and so on. But yeah, the top cars, we've not got the power, really, and we've got a little bit too much weight to compete with them. And while it's good through the gates, it's not that much better than the other vehicles that have gone. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.